Surprisingly, even today, some people still associate singleness with some sort of taboo, especially in one's 20s, when society seems to intensify the pressure to be single. Who hasn't heard or witnessed cliché phrases directed at women such as, "Are you still single?" However, it seems that this scenario is changing. In recent years, we have witnessed a significant change in the profile and choices of women, and this movement has gained strength and acceptance almost everywhere in the world. In China, however, the reality is different. Have you ever heard of the term shengnu? Did you know that in China, parents announce their unmarried children, especially daughters, in public squares? What if I told you that on Chinese soil there is even a kind of license for women to look for a partner? Are you curious? In this video, you will learn in depth about the experience of single women in China, from stigma to the search for freedom. Until recently, a woman who did not get a good marriage found herself in a difficult situation, with no income of her own and, in some cases, no inheritance. In this scenario, single women were often stigmatized, becoming almost appendages of their families. In recent years, however, we have witnessed a considerable change in women's profile and choices. Many women are choosing to remain single for a variety of reasons, and this trend is gaining increasing acceptance around the world, even in traditionally patriarchal cultures. According to a study conducted by the consulting firm Morar HPI at the request of Tinder, 72% of 18 to 25-year-olds interviewed claim to have chosen to remain single. Surprisingly, women, more than men, expressed feeling empowered by not being involved in a relationship. However, in the land of the dragon, this reality is very different. In China, the dynamics surrounding singleness are, unfortunately, quite prejudiced. Although statistics indicate a male dominance, singleness, especially for women, is frowned upon. While in many societies, a woman seeking economic independence is admired, even if it causes some discomfort in more traditional families, in China the reality is different. Female singleness is stigmatized and considered disrespectful, especially by the families themselves. Imagine a woman over 27 years old, financially independent, dedicated to her work, and in no hurry to start a family. In many places, this would be a source of pride for the parents, wouldn't it? In China, however, it is a sign of shame, and many parents consider having an unmarried daughter as a kind of failure, and it is common for parents to wish their daughters to get married, get a good job, and have children. To make this wish come true, every Saturday and Sunday afternoon, Shanghai's People's Square hosts hundreds of mothers and fathers distraught over their children's delay in getting married, something increasingly common in China as the country rapidly urbanizes. At these gatherings, parents announce their children on handwritten sheets of paper. Oddly enough, these advertisements include the age and height of the girls and boys, accompanied by flattering descriptions and a series of requirements about the profile of the prospective partner. This practice of advertising bridal couples in public squares has gained momentum in recent years and is known in English as marriage market. Attendees claim that the strategy began about a decade ago. However, if you think these are the most radical measures, you may be surprised to discover that there are other such initiatives in the country. Concerned about the declining number of marriages, the government has also encouraged singles fairs, such as the Shanghai Matchmaking Expo. Another example of this government pressure is at the Dinglan Experimental School, where female teachers are now entitled to additional time off, called family leave and happiness leave. In practice, however, this type of leave seems to serve as a front to encourage women to find a partner during their time off, or even to have more children. The government claims that this measure will provide more time and opportunities for women, usually those working in internal departments, to socialize with the opposite sex. But the truth is otherwise, and you'll understand in a moment. The one-child policy is considered one of the factors behind the recent drop in the number of marriages in the country. According to data from the U.S. newspaper The New York Times, marriages have been on the decline since 2015. In addition to the reduction in the number of young people, the one-child restriction has also led to a gender imbalance. as the cultural preference for men has led to the abortion of many female babies. It is expected that in the next few years, there will be 30 million more men than women reaching adulthood and entering the Chinese marriage market. Faced with a shortage of brides and concerned about the economic effects of fewer babies in the future, the Chinese government has been pressuring women to marry quickly. In 2007, it made official the term Sheng Nu for women who have not married by the age of 27, an unsympathetic term that translates as leftover women. And the reason for this labeling? Evidently, to curb the rise of single women in a traditional society, where the decision not to marry is considered not only an individual choice, but a moral transgression, even perceived as a threat to national security. The subject is so sensitive that it has even been the subject of a book. According to Leda Hong Fincher, celebrated author of Leftover Women, the initiative represents a carefully orchestrated campaign by the Chinese government to stigmatize women in their 20s who choose to remain unmarried. The author argues that this initiative is part of an effort to pressure educated women, in particular, to marry and have children, and that this phenomenon has historical roots related to the agricultural economy and the need for labor in the fields. In the past, marriage was an effective way of pooling the resources of two families, and the sharing of fertile land often depended on the proportion of male members. In addition, women's limited access to education and the labor market made them dependent on their fathers and later, their husbands. Although social conditions for women have changed, pressure to marry persists, reflecting old traditions in a rapidly changing society. Because of all this pressure, in desperation, many Chinese women resort to extreme and unusual measures, such as participating in courses entitled How to Find a Husband, offered by the Waimai Club. To give you an idea, until 2017, there was a course on female morality, taught at the School of Traditional Culture in the city of Fushan, in Liaoning, northeastern China. The lessons were intriguing to say the least. Want an example? In the course, women were advised not to ask for food to be brought home. They should always cook, because failure to do so would be considered a breach of an established rule. Another example is when the husband asks for something. And here, no matter the context, whether she was busy or not, the instruction was to say yes, and it would be done immediately. The dissemination of a video on the internet revealed the content of some of these classes, in which teachers taught concepts such as the man is the sky and the woman is the floor, and that the woman is also in an inferior position. Another questionable teaching was, if you are hit, don't hit back. If you are insulted, don't insult back. Suck it up and don't ask for a divorce. Course topics included household chores such as cooking, sewing, and cleaning, as well as behavioral norms and traditional literature. In one of the statements in the video, a woman states, "My husband put me in this school so that I would learn female subordination and behavior." Other scenes show female students getting up at 4:30 a.m. to start their household chores. After the video generated more than 5,000 critical comments on the internet, the Fushun Education Department decided to cancel the classes, claiming that they violate social morality and gender equality. According to the national newspaper Global Times, such institutions have proliferated in China in recent years. Although the country's constitution provides for equality between men and women, real equality is still a long way off. In the World Economic Forum's report on gender equality, China ranks 100th, below countries such as Tajikistan and Azerbaijan. Although China has more female billionaires than any other country, a closer look reveals significant gender disparities. Women's average salary is significantly lower than men's, with a difference of up to 35%. In addition, female representation in positions of power is practically non-existent, with no woman ever having made it to the Standing Committee of the Communist Party, the country's highest organ of power. The author of the book mentioned above highlights a mentality that, according to her, is fostered by China's own official institutions. The social pressure on Chinese women to marry before the age of 27, labeling those who remain unmarried as defective, contributes to an ingrained stigma in society. This pressure also manifests itself in more serious issues, such as domestic violence. Although China recently passed its first law against this type of assault, enforcement is patchy and limited to married women. Even global campaigns such as Me Too, which has brought harassment issues to the fore in many countries, meets resistance in China. Problems such as domestic violence are traditionally considered family matters, and many women harassed at work choose to remain silent, fearing negative repercussions for their careers. And as we all know, China is not a proponent of free speech, and even if it says otherwise, any attempt to mobilize civil society here is strictly monitored. On Chinese soil, frequent depictions of single women as desperate, overqualified, and intimidating are commonplace in the media. However, these women are challenging the stigma associated with singleness in a unique way. Through their economic power, without resorting to protests or direct activism, researchers analyze. 6 years ago, a documentary produced by SK2, a well-known Japanese skincare brand, shocked Chinese society by exploring the pressures faced by single women. The documentary encouraged them to go their own way, resisting the usual family pressures and challenging the social narrative that something is wrong if they are not married. Today, Chinese women, especially in big cities, are more independent and no longer marry before the age of 30. They give priority to professional development, take care of their finances, and postpone the idea of starting a family. Despite this, the acceptance of these women's decisions by Chinese society remains a challenge. Marriage is still extremely patriarchal, and perhaps this trend of women choosing to be single and independent will grow. But for the moment, this expectation is a mere fantasy. But will Chinese society come to accept the decisions of these women? Tell us in the comments what you think. Did you already know about this reality in China? If you like this content, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to receive more interesting content. Thanks to all of you who have joined us, and see you next time.